All right, everyone, it's time to clank along as we talk about the news. The Iowa Satan statue just got torn down and beheaded by a U.S. naval veteran named Michael Cassidy. This was put up by the Satanic Temple. They've done this before. What they do is you go into a state where they have a religious display, like the Ten Commandments or Jesus or something, in a state building. And then you say, well, we're going to put up our own display because we have the same First Amendment rights as Christians do. I support that, by the way. However, I also don't really have a huge problem with the Satanic Temple's Satan statue being beheaded. Number one, because it's fucking hilarious. And number two, the Satanic Temple are leftoids by and large. So when you talk about the First Amendment, again, these are leftists by and large. These are the pink and blue hair crowd. They support strongly the First Amendment right to assert their privilege to put, a competing religious statue up in the Capitol Rotunda or something like that. I'm wondering how many of their members support unbridled free speech, however, and which of them support censorship on the internet, for example. And I have a feeling that there's not a total overlap between these two positions. And so there's a bit of hypocrisy, and it's all very ironic, too. Also, I would like to point out something. The Temple of Satan that does, this sort of thing, the Satanic Temple, rather, has nothing in common with the Church of Satan, especially of yesteryear. Anton LaVey's Church of Satan was far different than the modern COS as well. By the way, again, disclaimer, I was never a member of any of these groups. I left Satanism behind long, long ago because it's just too vacuous. I do have spiritual beliefs, and Satanism is effectively atheism with the floor show in the case of the COS, atheism with the LARPing if you're part of the Temple of Set, and atheism with trolling if you're from the Satanic Temple. And while I like trolling, and again, if you want to bother the organized religious Christians by putting up the Satan display in the Capitol, that's fine. But you've got to realize the origins of American Satanism basically start with quasi-libertarianism, and Anton LaVey literally cursed the hippie movement. Coincidentally, right before the Summer of Hate and the Charles Manson thing happened. This was talked about by Nicholas Schreck in his very good movie. Charles Manson Superstar? Anyway. So I'm of two minds here. On the one hand, and it's like a double reverse irony. It's like irony on steroids. The Satanic Temple, effectively, their big thing is trolling the Christians, right? And this is effectively like harassing them, kind of trolling them. I mean, he didn't hurt anyone or anything. He didn't go and bomb a group of Satanists, so this is public. Again, the destruction of property aspect, okay, it's a crime. He also raised like $20,000 for his legal fund within a couple of hours because, evangelical Christians are a fairly large, powerful movement within the United States, so I can't imagine he's going to have too tough a time when he probably gets off with a very light sentence and goes to the county jail for a while. U.S. Navy veteran, so dude's strong. Most of the people in the prison are Christians, so I don't think that he's going to have too hard a time. He'll just shrug and say, I did my duty for Christ. Deus Vult. You've got to, on one level, I've got to admire it. At the very least, he sticks to his religious dogma. A lot of Christians don't really do that. A lot of Christians, I wish more of them did defend their faith. And it's kind of better than the alternative. I say this as a goddamn pagan, so I'm not even accepted by a large number of Christians, although sometimes they tell me, I'll just pray, basically the pray for you Christians or something. I appreciate that. If there are spiritual forces out there, maybe you can conjure them too, so I don't mind if you pray for me. I've tempered myself on these issues. I used to be much more acerbic towards religion. I'm still anti-religious in the sense of organized religion, but I'm not going to shed any tears over such a goddamn funny story. And the dude probably was like grinning when he did it. He's like, Jesus told me to do it. At least he didn't hurt anyone. And it's hard to shed any tears for an organization. Again, I admire the Satanic Temple's trolling. You do have the right to have your competing religious displays. I wish that there were more pasta strainers in state houses. I wish that the Pastafarians would do more activism. There should be a more organized attempt to do that. Because that's not really a religion, but they're kind of sort of a religion, and yeah, whatever. And the mockery of religion is fine. But at the same time, again, when most of your members, I'm presuming, don't support the other part of the First Amendment, and your fixation is only on, haha, we're allowed to do this, that may be so, but isn't there a little bit of hypocrisy there? Just saying. So, yeah. I guess now they'll have to raise money to build another, Satan statue. It didn't look like it was particularly time-consuming to construct. I don't know exactly what it was made out of, but it's not exactly chiseled marble or something like that. I think that's also part of the point, It's easier to do the trolling when you have a lower cost involved. So the Iowa Satan statue has lost its head, as has our entire country, in all honesty. So sort of a microcosm of modern politics at the same time. The memetics keep stacking up. I don't know. I just find it so funny. And Kim Reynolds was, especially from the MAGA crowd, like the MAGA evangelicals, lambasting actually the DeSantis fans because Kim Reynolds allowed the statue to be put up. She didn't have a choice, to be clear, and I'm not going to criticize DeSantis. He's not responsible for Iowa's state policy or for interpreting the First Amendment in another state or in general. So I'm not saying that. But DeSantis did get a little bit of backlash, actually, because one of his primary endorsers in the most important state specifically for his campaign is seen by some religious voters as having facilitated this. I don't claim that. Just so that the DeSantis fans, the two of you that lurk on the channel, don't jump down my throat. I'm not saying that that's a problem. I'm just commenting on the fact that others have said so. There goes your statue. You'll have to put up another one. I mean, if they build them of cardboard or something like that, it'd be a lot easier. I don't think that the state can really decide what kind of display is allowed. I mean, you're going to have like the Wally shit in there and stuff, like candles and stuff. So, who cares? Ultimately, I don't believe that states should really have religious displays at all, or irreligious displays, by the way, for that matter. They're allowed because the 10th Amendment is, states are different from federal edifices, of course. The right of them to put on such displays has been challenged legally, and it's generally been upheld. I just think that it's not really, it shouldn't really be a thing. Like, that's a civic structure, church is where you go and worship, the temple or something like that, or your sacred grove, or in my case, my fucking garden, or the woods. It's not really the place for religiosity. It's not a church. Actually, if anything, putting up a bunch of graven images isn't it kind of ritualism? Ritualism used to be very much frowned upon in the United States by the vast majority of the Christian body. There's actually an entire backstory about the fight between ritualism and like the Common Book of Prayer lower church movement. Christians should look into it. You would find it absolutely fascinating to see how the Christian religion in the United States, especially during the 19th century, effectively was bastardized by the Catholic Church. We might be talking about the Pope later, by the way. That's about all. Peace out.